That's an important word.
And here we go. What's up, fellas? How we doing today?
What's up, boys?
What is happening?
All right, I got a story. So I went to the doctor yesterday. Nick inspired me. Well, it's actually, I don't know, Nick and I are synced up, our timelines. We both go to our physical, same time of year.
Apparently, everyone syncs up to the alpha in the house.
That's what I heard.
I did go second. Good point. Good point. So I followed my master. I'm but a Padawan. So I went to the doctor and confirmed through some intimate conversation, if you catch my drift, that I do indeed have a hernia. So this is my first day post-diagnosis. I've been suffering. It hurts like the dickens. I've been suffering for a little while, but I'm wearing a girdle. This belt sort of like cinches up real tight. Have either of you ever had a hernia?
No, I've cared for a bro who had one. He named it. Let me see your girdle.
No, it's under everything.
It.
The point of the story is
right.
What we're going after here is all about coming into manhood right now. This is the first time in my life that I've ever peed through that slit in a pair of boxer briefs.
I do all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah. Here's the problem. I used to bartend in the outside, and you'd get really chafed balls if you didn't put on like some. I think we called it like monkey butt powder they had in the bathroom. But I'm just like, I just got to pull the entire package out, shaft and sack, let it sit. But it was kind of vulnerable. People were like, you actually do that? Let it sit outside my boxers, between the boxers and the shorts and the pants, so it just didn't stick to my. So I just let it. I just dropped the pants and let it rip.
That's why I have seen you use the restroom at a urinal and put your pants all the way down to the floor before. So I'm not entirely surprised that you used to do this.
Is that
I always thought it was
normal?
kind of like, stage fright when you go to like a game at the Metrodome up here in Minneapolis. It used to be troughs.
Yeah, like
for
Wrigley.
peeing standing up. And I remember as a kid just like having to go so bad. And then you go in there's this huge line, and some guys are standing shoulder to shoulder, and you're just there as a little kid, just like, I can't pee. And then going back and sitting down and being so ashamed of like, I can't go back in there, but I also can't hold this. Like, what? I cannot wait until I get back home.
Something's got to give.
Yeah, just brutal. My heart hurts right now.
I still experience that from time to time. I'm like, don't really got to go, but I'm like, well, I might as well go. And for some reason, I'm getting in my head. What I do is I blow hot air on my hand, and I don't know if it distracts me, but a buddy told me about that once, and it actually works.
All right.
Pro tip right out of the gate here.
Seriously. Tip for the day.
Come on.
That's uncomfortable. Speaking of getting things in the mail, Nick, you just got something in the mail today. How you doing?
Oh, my Rocky Mountain oysters.
Your Rocky Mountain oysters.
Yeah,
you went to the doctor and you found out some important news.
I'm coming out of the gate with this. Sap, you don't even know this yet, but I did my physical. It's been years since I've gotten one, but I wanted to get a full blood panel.
Okay.
To do, all the stuff, thyroid, lipid profile, but especially I was interested in the hormone panel.
Right.
And they get, I think, 6 different profiles. Total testosterone, free testosterone, a couple things I don't know what they mean. SHBG, which is sex hormone binding globulin. So here's the thing. 300 and 1,000 is the range.
Okay.
Total testosterone, I'm barely over 3.
Okay.
Free testosterone, I'm under the norm, on the bottom part. I'm below 300. For real. And then SHBG, you want that to be low because the higher that is, what that does is that binds your free testosterone that's even available to use in the blood. So that's high.
Okay.
I don't know why. All the reasons. I've heard that dudes are typically I don't know however many decades they've been studying it, but are increasingly decreasing their testosterone.
Huh.
So I asked chat, I'm not looking to get on the TRT yet. I have been kind of looking for an excuse, but I'm not going to do that because then my natural testosterone will plummet. But I'm doing the ashwagandha. I'm doing the different. There's deer antler, the velvet. There's a local supplement store that I like a lot. I'm doing God's Herbs, doing some vitamin D, vitamin K. But I
Okay.
went into the store and they said, "Hey, have you heard of Heart and Soil? Who runs that? Joe? Paul Saladino.
Yeah, Paul Saladino.
Ah,
Yeah,
Saladino, sure.
yeah. So they have a whole package supplement that's kind of like for men, not kind of from. This is like the one they recommended for men, and she's like, it has bovine testicle in it. I'm like, okay. So I started looking. I'm like, yeah, why not do the real thing? So I got a whole shipment into that. I got kidney, I got liver, I got heart, and I got 6 fat bull testicles
We're
that I'm
not
gonna
talking
throw in my
about
shake.
we're not talking about the ground up supplement right now. We're talking about raw off the bowl.
Stand
I'm
by
gonna
and get some.
Yeah, stand by, baby. So I've been doing liver shakes for a while. Liver
Yep.
with some kombucha blended up with some berries, and I'm gonna throw some other organs in there, looking to get the T levels rising. She said he did. This woman who helped me, her husband had super low testosterone, and his sperm had like multiple heads. Some of them, like a lot of deformities.
Got it.
6 months was on this protocol, tripled his T levels in 6 months.
Well, I'm buying what you're selling. I
Including the
imagine.
bovine lower
No,
parts.
that's a newer thing. That's a newer thing that they brought in. That
That's
a
the
lot of
sick
organ meat.
shit. All right. That's for the
What'd you
sick
say, Seth?
type of
That's right.
type of type of junk.
Let's go. I love it. Mark, give me something interesting that's happening in your life. Nick's
Oh. I got a 40-yard dumpster behind my house. I just moved this past weekend,
go.
and I think I filled it up like 4 yards. I've used like 10% of it, and I was scratching my head. I was like, man, I got a lot of stuff to throw away. I guess, right? Um,
Is this a renovation dumpster or this is just like crap accumulation
no, no,
dumpster?
no. This is like a renovation dumpster, but
Yeah.
I needed to get it on site swiftly, and they're like, "This is the only one we got." And I said, "Great." And then I looked at it and I thought, man, this kind of looks like one of the boats from D-Day, you know? I mean, it's just,
Amazing.
it looks like,
Let's
yeah,
go.
it's pretty
Yeah, they
serious.
just drop the end. Troops run out.
Yeah.
That opening scene from Saving Ryan's Private,
Yes.
Yep.
that'll get you, man.
Yeah. That's, that is, not to desecrate the sacred act of those on D-Day. Just what it looks like, though, you know?
Good point. Good point. Way to rescue that one.
I'm hearing a little bit. I can deal with it, but you guys aren't hearing an echo of me, are you?
Nope.
Not at all.
Okay.
No.
Okay, good. Hopefully it's not going to be. Yeah, hopefully it's not the recording then. It's just in my headphones.
So we're talking a lot about going after purpose, and we'll get there and talk about KingMakers Community and what we're building here. But I want to start because nobody likes somebody who preaches something but isn't living it.
Yeah.
So Nick and I love the podcast episode from Adam Young's The Place We Find Ourselves about the role of counseling. And in there he talks about this Latin phrase, nunc dimittis, or nunc dimittis,
Yep.
which is from Scripture, and sort of describes these experiences like it is finished, or take me now, Lord. What I've just experienced is the reason I was created, right? So I'm curious from y'all's experience. You guys are men. I know both of you are guys that live with incredible purpose in your life. But give me a moment from the past week, couple weeks, month, whatever, where you experienced a moment like that, where you got to the end of something and were like, I just lived my purpose. I could die in this moment fulfilled.
Let your servant go in peace.
You know, Nick, I can jump in as you think. I've been living in, got a house that I bought about 7-8 years ago, and it's in the middle of Kansas City in an area kind of called Westport, and it was a great home. I had probably 20 different men live with me. Not probably, I did have 20 different men live with me over a 5-year period before I married my wife, and she moved into this house once that season of life was over. All those guys left, right? And then she came in and gave a real heart to the home. But over time, we've had two children in our first 2 years of marriage. We got a third on the way, so we'll have three children under 2.5 years old. And
Yeah, baby.
yeah, baby. But it's got like 17 steps up from the street, right? It's got you don't have any private parking. It's all public parking on the street, and you just we're by we're kind of in this like weird area where there's just a mix, right? You've got a lot of Christians, you've got a lot of druggies, you've got some hardcore Satanists, you've got all of the weed shops are around here, all of the any paraphernalia, all the bars are around here, so it's just like this swirl. And then there's the biggest hospital for trauma is just down the street. So you get sirens all day and night. People coming from 5-hour radius that come and send if they have a level 1 trauma or level 4 trauma. So that we got moved out this past weekend after living here for about 2 years and trying about 3 different things that all fell through. A couple offers on other houses, etc. And so I don't know if I'd say I'm ready to let your servant go in peace. I feel like I got plenty of unfinished business. But having my wife and kids in a safer place and getting them into a place where there's just green space for them to run around. I can tell you there's a level of peace and just interior calm that comes from that, even though the exterior of like moving transitions, all kinds of craziness going on, job transition or for myself, but that in and of itself is probably the most one of the most fulfilling things I've done in my marriage, aside from help my wife get through labor.
Did you catch
And like
those first two babies?
what's that?
Did you catch them?
I didn't catch either of them. I had hands down and ready, and then I cut the cord on. You know, I cut the cord on both, but yeah, I guess. Did you catch them?
I caught the second two. I was in the tub on the second, on the first of the two, and then I was like, that was unnecessary. I get really overzealous about things. As I was in there, I'm like, I don't need to be in here. But the
Yeah.
second one, I caught.
Woo! There you go.
I was out in Estes Park, Colorado last week for some family vacation, and we brought our e-bikes out. We got 3 kids, 5, 3, and 18 months, and the e-bikes were at a good season for the e-bike. And every morning, went to Rocky Mountain National Park, came back for a nap. I took a nap every single day, all 6 days. It was incredible. Relatively pretty off the grid digital wise. Didn't have any coaching calls. Joe
Hmm.
took over groups, and I was able to be fully present. In the afternoon, we went back to Rocky Mountain again, and there was a few moments, but one moment in particular, we were riding our bikes. I'm on one with the 2 kids in the trailer on the bike, and Teresa's got a Tua on her front seat on her bike, and we're just at this deep valley. I shot a video of this bull moose we walked by. That was on this one to you guys. Speaking of bull, see how many times we can mention bulls in this podcast.
Come on.
But uh, I don't know how to explain it. But it was very untouched. Like kind of this like these rivers flowing down from the mountains. I mean, the Rockies were all around us, but we were in a deep kind of valley, but really wide and spread out. And I started thinking about Lewis and Clark because I'm from the right next to the
Hmm.
convergence of the Mississippi and the Missouri, which is where they left out. And I don't really know how to explain it. It was kind of this moment that I think the Nuke Dimittis moment with Zechariah in the temple when Jesus is presented to him is this kind of like existential, like, whoa, everything is a lot bigger than me kind of moment. And I had not necessarily with regards to my life purpose, but everything as I'm driving through, riding the bike through the mountains. It's hard. These moments are kind of hard to put into words because they kind of become static. But this dynamic experience of so many have gone before me, the vastness of creation that I'm feeling connected to in a way, which is another unique experience with those that I'm doing everything for, right? I want to be successful in every area of life, and I don't want any of them to be sacrificed. I want business to be successful. I want my brotherhood relationships to be successful. I want my marriage to be the best marriage that I can possibly make it. I want
Hmm.
my kids to know that they have a present father. And everything just kind of got aligned and centered in this moment of connecting with God, not looking to produce, but I was connected with God, with those in my deep inner circle that are those four closest humans to me, my wife and three children, and his creation. And it was one of those moments that just like that. Yeah, I vacationed better than I ever had
Mhm.
before. So that's what came to mind, Joe, when you asked that.
Yeah, I love that.
What
For
about
me,
you, man? Yeah,
yeah, for me the answer is it's been the coaching journey that I've
yeah,
been on for the past almost 2 years now. Uh, there was a moment yesterday sitting with a guy, like right at the end of the workday, and just at the end of our call, there was just breakthrough, and he just broke down and crying, and I was just in that moment with him, and
yeah,
I asked him the question, like, what is it like for me to be here with you right now? And so much of the depth of his pain and sorrow and hardship and avoidance and numbing in his life is from being alone and being isolated
right,
and being caught in fear.
Hmm.
And so it was two things. It was completely this unknown to be accompanied in that moment and to feel the rush of an excitement of love and connection and that kind of intimacy. And uh, yeah, there's so many times almost on a weekly basis, pretty close to a weekly basis, that I get off of one of those calls and I'm like, that was it. Like that, I just did the thing that I was created for. And it fills me with such, it's like my response to that question to me is like, it means the world to be in this with you. And so it isn't like a one-way
yeah,
mirror, right? Like the
right,
relationship is like, I'm living this with you. Like the honor it is for me to be with him as he emerges into his masculine
right.
identity and what in his purpose is like. That means the world to me to be in that means so much to me. It does so much for the way that I show up to all those different relationships, Nick, that you just laid out: marriage,
Yeah,
family, life around me,
yeah,
in a way that in no other work context I've experienced that kind of depth in life. And
yeah.
so yeah, just got me thinking. Was another one of
That's
those
good.
moments of really being able to touch uh, that realm and that world means the world to me. So
Yeah.
that's it. Mark, you played professional baseball. You moved
I
back to
did.
KC.
Yep.
You start a coffee company, coffee shop, brick and mortar, which I visited for the first time end of last summer,
Oh
where
yeah.
you and I first met. You're involved in other entrepreneurial pursuits, sales, out there slinging, working with people. You have a reputation that precedes you. People that have met you. I'm up here in Minnesota. You're down in KC, where Nick is. I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot about you. Met you a few times, but you just have a personality, a magnanimity about you that's magnetic. That people speak so highly about, and men want to be like. And you certainly put your life on the line in many ways to live and to pursue vision and mission in your life. So I'm just curious for you personally, what is the vision and mission of your life that you're pursuing that makes what people experience about you and then turn around and tell other people about tick?
Sure. It's a no, it's a great question. Before I give you that answer, I'm just going to say Lewis and Clark, the men on their journey,
Yeah, don't forget it.
9 and 11 pounds of bison meat a day.
What?
Okay. So you can look this up. I just want people to know this. That was an incredible.
Somebody out there better fact check that.
You got to fact check it. But 9 and 11, it's from their journals. They were typically rowing up rivers all the time, and they would, and it was really, bison meat's pretty lean, and so they didn't have a ton of fat. It was just like they were crushing protein. But between 9 and 11 pounds of beef per day. So just.
Okay, so you're saying Lewis and Clark, like each individual or the whole group?
No. Each individual man.
I don't know, Joe.
I mean, I'm just letting you know, brother. You ever gone
The
swimming?
original carnivore diet.
Dude,
That's right. That's
Started on the
amazing.
river.
these guys were crazy. I was flabbergasted. I looked it up. I went through ChatGPT. I talked to a couple other people. I looked through some primary source material, and it seems like the low end was 7 pounds.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, chat's giving me 2 to 3 pounds.
Well,
My chat's wrong. My chat's tailored to me, though. I said dumb it back a little bit every time. I don't like hyperbole, so
Hey,
that is probably tailoring it all to me.
anybody that watches this podcast, you could totally fact check it, send it
Somebody
over.
else fact check.
Well, yeah, we'll do that. I'm not buying
Send it to
Anyhow,
facts. Fact check that.
I tell my chat to lie to me.
Yeah,
Like, make it sound better than it is, chat.
tell me you love
Pick
me,
me
chat.
up.
Tell me you need me.
That's right. Butter me up.
Oh man. But to
How do you do it, Mark? How do you do it?
how do I do
What's
it?
your vision? What's your not how? Well, the question is vision for your life. Like what draws you out? What drives you?
I think family is building. I want to build a family that carries on for many generations, and I know that I could suss that out quite a bit, but I never really understood the privilege it was to be a Sappington, and because I was never told that growing up. I think I could feel it, but I think I realized that I've got a name, and that matters. Whether people before me had lived a great life or had not, whatever works. I had this kind of ability with my bride and with our children to create something that could last for hopefully into far into the future. And so that's a thought that's kind of spun around in the back of my head for quite some time. And so I've thought about how could I live that, and it wasn't just, I guess the way to put it would be, so I want to build a house someday. I want to have a bunch of children. I want to, have success in my coffee enterprise, right? I've got a wholesale coffee roasting business. I get to interface with people in the coffee retail business on a day-to-day basis. I've competed in professional sports. We talked about urinals earlier. I met Mike Trout at a urinal. He's going to be a Hall of Fame baseball player. I met Albert Pujols in the showers. He was a guy with the
Yeah, you did.
so these very, you're from St.
You were
Louis.
butt naked in the same room with Albert Pujols.
He said I was good looking, So
Come on! What
right,
part of
gotta-
you?
that's- you
Like
gotta get
the
deep.
whole package was. That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
keep going.
That guy's number 3 on the all-time home runs list, right? You got Barry Bonds and A-Rod, and well, he might be number 4. I think Babe Ruth might still be number 3. But the I think the vision for my life, right? I wrote this out probably 8 years ago. Was I wanted to be a man that people would. I've always had a to your point, Joe, a pretty magnanimous personality, big personality, but it wasn't always oriented or channeled toward the good. A lot of the time, it was just okay. What's in it for Mark? How can we go have a ton of fun? You name it. I just want to talk about myself. I want to do the things that I want to do. Professional sports will also kind of lead you into this very narrow scope because in order to be elite at anything, you really do have to dedicate a lot of time, energy, and effort, at least an intense level of time, energy, and effort. And so, and then everything else around you is telling you, focus on this, focus on this. And what I realized over many years was that it was kind of became about the All About Me show, and everybody was on board with that because they enjoyed the journey I was on, but it wasn't really that fulfilling to me. And so when I kind of wrote out this vision for my life about, yeah, I think it was about 2017 or early 2018, 2017. I took an entire day, and I basically worked from I wrote this eulogy exercise, right? It was like, how do I want to be remembered? And then it talked about different people in my life, colleagues, family, spouse, children, as a business owner, maybe, religious figures, or, young men. That was something that I wrote about. And really what I came to find through that exercise, I think I listened to the Riverdance theme song a bunch of times, because that's like a lot of drums, kind of very visceral.
Yes.
But I discovered, and I uncovered, right, that I really wanted people to get an accurate assessment of their talents and skills and strengths. A lot of them, the God-given, mainly God-given gifts that they had, and how to lean into those and see that they had something incredible to offer the world, and something that would enrich their life, the people around them, and that was a really good thing. And that it wasn't about, here are all the things you're not. It was more of, here are the things that you uniquely were created to do and to give. And so...
Yeah, I love that. I mean, when you were sharing earlier, I hear this overall message when you talked about like what it means to be a Sappington. Like the transition from my legacy, what will I be remembered by, to a legacy of us, like our legacy. How will we be remembered? And both of them are driven by legacy, right? Which isn't a bad thing, but it's about, who am I bringing with me?
Yeah. No, it's like, what's the, if you're driving a boat, right, you got a wake behind you, right? And sometimes that wake can knock people off course. Or, right, what I'm thinking is like, how do you, let's pretend you're a goose, right? You're at the head of the V. How do you reduce the drag so other people can really drive in the proper direction? It's all about orientation, right? If I'm a goose flying north in the winter, that's going to be a bad winter for me, right? Because I need to be going south, right? Because that's where there's going to be food, that's where there's going to be sustenance, that's where it's going to be safe, that's where everything's going to be. But someone has to lead that charge.
I love that.
So I think I think that's a big part of what I see. And then legacy-wise, right? Like, I think I want to become a saint. I want my kids to become saints. I want my wife to become a saint, right? And for people who aren't Catholic out there, that just means like that I have wholly dedicated my life to Christ in such a way that I am exactly who He created me to be. Like, so St. Paul says, it's no longer I that live, but Christ who lives in me. But it's not like they only see Jesus. What they see is this particular aspect of Christ that comes through Mark, that comes through Nick, comes through Joe, comes through any man, right? Women, of course, as well. But any man that is putting has put God first in his life, right? You order God first, everything else gets into order over time. And so, that's kind of the vision of my life, is how do I go to heaven? How do I bring as many people as possible with me, starting with those closest to me, or those who I have a direct impact on? I'm really not concerned with Africa. I'm really not concerned with Europe. I'm really not concerned with Australia or China or Asia, because I'm not there. Maybe the Lord will direct me there, but what I'm really concerned with are the people that I interact with on a day-to-day basis. I can interact with you in Minnesota.
Right.
That's quick. We're right here. And so I want also, I think, men to understand that you got your circle of influence and your circle of concern, and people are concerned about things they cannot influence at all. And I think that's the heart of the vision I wrote out for my life, was really about how do I then distill this into my day-to-day, where I'm actually touching the people that I'm with, not pretending to touch people that will never really feel what I have to give. Does that make sense?
No, it's a beautiful sidetrack. I remember the sociological study that said, like, humans possess the capability to be meaningfully connected to about 130 other people. Like, that's our capacity for relationship. And I think it's in his new book, John Eldredge talks about, like, we were not designed to hold the concerns of the world. Right? Like the immediate
Right.
concern of the sphere of influence is enough to bottom us out. And now we have to hold heartbreak and disease and famine and war of the entire universe all at once. And that's crippling. And to get back to, like, what am I responsible for? What do I have radical ownership for? And God certainly can elevate us to platforms where we need to have more global concern but for the vast majority of us, that concern is the immediate, right? And
That's exactly
so much of concern external to that becomes simply distraction. And the more that we spin up to all of that, the more distracted and ineffective we become in actually being able to cultivate change, which, to your point about leaving legacy, is leaving the world better than we found it and bringing more people with us. It's like, I mean, it embodies what as I've gotten to know you, like that image of like go and bring others with you, or creating lift for other people.
Yep.
I see that emanating all over your life, and so that's awesome. Nick, I want to turn to you. You have given pretty much your entire adult life to pouring into young people. And I think the world around you in your sphere of influence would say with total confidence that your family's marked by it, that you and Teresa have bled for it, that you have brought up your family in a culture where it is about serving young people, bringing the generations with you in what you're pursuing in your own life. And I remember, now that I say that, I remember you talking about like the gift of evangelization and like careful whose message you're selling because you are an evangelist. But my question for you is, young people today are kind of punks. And why, in consideration of that, have you found it your call time and again to pour out for people that, your age and people that are coming of age? Why have you found that mission so fulfilling?
Well, I used to be one of those. I was the punk who didn't know who he was, who was drifting, who was numbing and medicating and abdicating responsibility and letting fear cripple me. And so I would posture and pose and put on masks. And it's just so clear to me that you say I walk by a guy on the street and I pretty much say hi to everybody, or at least try to make eye contact, see
Yeah,
if they'll
you
look
do.
at me in the eyes. And I'll say, how you doing? And the guy might look at me and say nothing. So many of us want to take that personally. So many of us are like offended by that. Everyone's got stuff going on, man. And the more you engage your story, I'll say this, the more I engaged my story and woke up to the reality that there's somebody who authored my story and has invited me to co-author it, after I hit my rock bottom, the more I engaged my story, the more I stopped being offended by others as they're walking their journey. And the more, by the grace of God, I claim territory back in my own life. And yes, it's all God, but I don't know. I think He invites us into full active participation in our redemption and sanctification and process of salvation. And so in our wholeness and integration and healing. And the more, I don't just want to throw out a bunch of words here, but the more I've walked down that path, the more I realize I got to turn back around. And we got to tell our story, Joe. We say that a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's what we're selling is the life we're living, and the life we can't sell something you don't have. And I just know I've tasted the depths of, really, it's hell. Like, yeah, the goal is to get into heaven, but I think I like it more like the goal is to get heaven here, and we can taste hell here, and we can taste just whatever you want here now. And I'm just so fired up. And I remember, I'll say this, I remember the first 15 years ago, well, like a week into my first stint in active duty, uh, somebody said to me when I was with Net Ministries, they said, and it was Mark Burcham. He said, Nick, you're a talented man. You're going to affect a lot of people, God's going to do a lot of work through you, but he is infinitely more interested in what he wants to do in you and to you to transform you than what he wants to do through you. And I've just discovered that to be true. And not that this is like just I want to do this for me, but the more I've found that the more I give, the more I pour into others, the more I serve, the more I become me. And like
Yeah.
that's the family life I want to have. That's the outward focus culture I want to be a part of. And it's just, and you can't, it's, you taste it. You taste that life, and it's just so rich.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just want, I was talking to somebody on the way to this call as I'm driving home, and he says something about retiring. He's like, "I'm not gonna retire." Like, what does that even freaking mean? Retirement anymore? And I love it. I'm like, dude, hell no, we're not gonna retire. Retire from what? And just check out when the world needs you most. Like the more miles you get behind you, the more the world needs you. And I'm just pumped to keep running hard until I meet my maker face to face and say I gave it as much as I could have. Some days better than others,
Yeah.
and it's just worth it. Just pouring into guys, you become more you.
Yeah. I love that. We're talking about this new community we're launching, and this is a perfect segue because this is it.
Yeah.
Like finding what's in me and learning to order it in a way that I experience it as productive and helpful
Right.
and beneficial, that I can get somewhere to do the stuff that I was created to do and be, more than even just do the work that I become it, like you were saying, Nick.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that is, I think, in a distracted and crazy and fast-paced world, can just be like frenetic energy. And like hopefully we stumble on it at some point someday, and until then, like I'll just I don't know, try harder or become more voided and check out more and figure out how to numb. So the tagline or the offer, the goal of what we're building is this invitation to build an operating system for your life. To both of you, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think an operating system is just like it's the water you swim in, you know, it's the ground you touch. So it's like, what does your day to day actually look like so that you can more or less bring into action all of these principles, ideas, goals that you have set for yourself, that you've plumbed the depths and said, okay, this is really what I want to accomplish. How do you actually make that real? And one of the things is like, oh, it's great to, put together some goals. It's great to, say, hey, this is who I'm going to become, and get fired up for that, watch a motivational video, get inspired, etc. But that's always going to wane, right? Motivation will wane, but inspiration, right? The breath of life within, right? That drives you forward in good weather and bad weather, good times and in bad, right? That's a deeper thing, and you will not find it unless you plumb the depths. I think that's what I've discovered. So, building an operating system for your life is to say, okay, what are the banks to the river? How do I channel all of this energy, all of this good that I have been given, and how do I orient it, in a particular direction? There's a great story about, how often is a pilot on track if he's flying from, LA to Hawaii, and it's like, well, about 2% of the time, right? 98%
Right.
of the time, he's not on the direct path. He's very close, but he's always course correcting, And so the
Hmm.
thing is, but where is he oriented? It's proper orientation, right? You think of a compass, they'd call it orienting. It's like, where am I going? And so, an operating system for your life orients you toward who you want to become, and says, if you live these principles, if you live these actions each day, each week, each month, each quarter, each year, like, you can rest assured that you can look back a year from now and say, hey, I have made a lot of progress. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think you
That's good.
beautifully explained like the vision, the mission, like the 30,000-foot view, my life's purpose, vision for my life, the 20,000-foot view, even the 15,000-foot view of like, okay, like where's my compass? Where's my heading? Nick, I would love if you put some meat on the bone of like the operating system for our life isn't just like, oh, figure out your vision and mission. Like, it's like a flowery conference where you just go and like you get super inspired and you like write down a vision statement that you're like kind of cool with, or a mission statement. But then how do you actually go back to life and a year from now be 25% closer to that outcome and know that you did it? Right? So how do I go from, okay, I got to 15,000 foot view. What's the operating system that gets me from there to boots on the ground, daily action activity, getting me closer to the ultimate outcome that I'm shooting for?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I mean, the Joey, Sap, you mentioned eulogy earlier, and a lot of times people have probably, heard about imagining your funeral and how do you want people to, what do you want people to say about you and how do you want to live? That's pretty far out, but we like looking more proximally 5, 10 years out. How do you want your life to look practically and get specific? And how does that make you feel? And let's get a vision for, like, I know you mentioned vision, but like, okay, and once we take, I mean, Sab, you can maybe talk a little bit more about this, but take a
Sure.
full day off and craft this out. This manifesto, this life plan that is going to be altered, as you said, 98% of the time that plane is checking, but what are they checking? They know the destination, but this thing becomes like a judge for you. You're looking at it regularly, you're reading it, you're sharing it. When we get together, you're articulating it, because
Right.
so often we write these mission statements, we write these vision statements, and they sit on our wall and we forget that they're there, and they just became another piece of art or decoration,
Right.
but they're not forcing us to move. So how do we set ourselves up where these things are, we're looking at them, we're talking about them, and then, okay, so let's meet once a month to talk
Right.
about that. But then how do we have more proximal goals and get specific? You can't do everything at once, but we firmly do believe that on the principle of how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so if I improve the moment that I wake up in the morning and I get that habit in place, that's going to affect how I hit the rest of my day and how I hit my relationships. So okay, let's focus on finances. Let's get specific about, okay, what are your goals financially to get you in a healthy place in 1 year from now? Because you guys have probably heard, it's probably said different ways, but most people significantly overestimate what they can do in a year, let's say. Or let's say most significantly overestimate what they can do in a week, but significantly underestimate what they can do in a year. Like
That's
what you
right.
can do in a year with the compound effect of daily pulling the right levers and getting specific. So you got a life plan, you got an operating system for your life that is general, but then how do we get specific and name some goals and hold each other accountable for it? That's what we're looking to do
Yeah.
in the Kingmakers. Saf, hop in.
Yeah. So I think to answer your question more directly, Joe, and that was great, Nick. It's a So let's say you have different principled areas of your life, right? You might have your relationships, right? And you might be familial. So I might have my wife and my children. Okay, I'm going to go on a date night once a week with my wife. I'm going to spend 15 minutes one-on-one with each kid, each day, right? And if you have 8 kids, well, maybe it's 5 minutes. And then you do everything else family-wise, but you're going to spend some time together. That's a way to really specifically drive in. You're not always going to meet these ideals, but at least you have an orienting force. Exercise. The way when I say like a 98% of the time, you're off course, but you're course correcting. I was gonna work out 5 days this week, and it happened that I went to the gym 4 of those times. The other day, I had to go do pull-ups at the playground because my kids were there, and that's the way that it worked. Because I've got 2 kids under 2. That's a way where you see it in reality, and then you have the flexibility to find a way to make it work. But I don't know if either of you guys, I think probably anybody listening would have a memory of, all right, I had one bad day, then I had 2 bad days, and then I fell off the horse completely, right? An operating system allows you to have a bad day and get right back on the horse and keep it rolling, and so I think,
Yeah, and when other people are looking at your operating system and you're being forced to show it to somebody and
well,
talk
yeah,
about it,
well,
that's the power, man, of
and
like others are like in it with you and are gonna help hold you accountable. And by that word, I mean like actually help you live it out.
yeah, it's like an accountable encouragement, right? It's like, hey, we're all shoulder to shoulder in the trenches going together,
Right.
and we each need to be. You think of like a rowing team, right? It's like if one of those people stops rowing, the boat starts to turn. So you just got to kind of help each other, find a good pace, find a good rhythm. And I think you're exactly right though, Nick. It's just about. I've done life plans in isolation. They never work because I'm not strong enough just to do it myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've got these great goals. I have these magnanimous goals. I've got these things. And figuring out, one, are they aligned? Are they relevant to one another? Or are they disparate? I can't say, hey, I want to go spend 5 nights a week doing apostolic stuff. And then also say, hey, I want to start a business. Those things I don't have time to do both those things. So I have to figure out where is this actually going to be relevant to one another? Are these aligned? I needed help to do that, so I needed to talk it out with people, figure it out. But I had to actually put it on paper before I could figure out if it was going to work.
Yep.
So
yeah, you guys are touching on 2 super important parts of what we're building here, like the practicals, which is the plan development.
Yep.
From 30,000 to 0, and then don't do it alone. Do it together. Accountability, like true accountability, shoulder to shoulder, moving forward together, where someone's looking at it, encouraging you to look at it, right? Holding you accountable to getting there.
Right.
And which also produces increased ownership of you do it. Because ultimately, this isn't like a shared business enterprise where you need each other in the KingMakers community to get there. It's like, it's your life. You can choose to squander it, right? You can choose to let it go by the wayside. We can't do the work for you, but we can be in it with you in the planning phase, right, and then the development and live it out phase to get there. And for me, that like you're talking about yourself personally, Mark, that's changed everything to understand, like, what is the vision of my life? And not just the big vision of my life of like who I want to be and who my family is aspiring to be, what kind of culture we're trying to develop. And that's not to downgrade, those have been essential elements of the process. But then it's like, for me, it's been like, okay, where do I want to be a year from now? Like you were talking about, Nick, really practically, like frame it out. What's the data that I'm looking at?
Yeah.
That's telling me, like, what will be different a year from now.
Mm-hmm.
That I want to improve, that I want to work on. What are the different like core components? Nick, you mentioned finances, relationships, right? And then what am I going to do this next month, the next 3 months, to be able to try to get there? And then all that stuff informs my to-do list, because then it's just not, I mean, I'm an idea person. And then I tend to be reactive, where I just start throwing stuff on the to-do list because it seems like a good idea, and I hope it helps. It's like, that's the way, if I'm being honest, before a plan, I lived most of my life of like, well, I hope this helps. Well, I guess we'll see on the other end of it. There's only one way to find out, right? Rather than like, no, I am confident this is going to get me an inch closer to the plan that I set out. Right, and this is sort of a good transition to the second part of the urgency and the need for this today. And like, by the grace of God, I get to coach young guys all day, every day, and it's awesome. Most of guys that I've met over the course of time of my life, and this is very much a reflection of my own journey as well, are unhappy with their present reality. They're unsettled currently. They're not present and fully engaged in their day-to-day reality, and they're unsure of their future. They're asking and sort of kind of haunted by big questions of purpose and meaning and what's the point of all of this, at the same time that they're unsettled in like being fully present and engaged to what's now, what they're responsible for today. So just curious from the both of you is like, why now? What's so urgent about men today that is motivating the two of you to spend your life and part of your purpose to be able to see this accomplished so that other guys can live?
No time like the present. The best time to, what is it, plant an oak tree? What did they say, 20 years ago? Second best time today.
That's right.
And yeah, I think it's the more, Joe, similarly, the more I'm walking with guys, the more I'm working with guys, the more I'm seeing this lack of so many of our addictions are a result of not, I mean, just I don't feel like I'm living in my purpose. And it's just the data keeps piling up. Whereas like I'm just grinding. I'm just trying to get through the week, get to the weekend, and it's like, man, what are we living for? What are we working for? And I resonate so much with that. I mean, the story of my life so often has been abdicating responsibility. And I know, Joe, I've told you that. Like I if I didn't had changed course, and can you guys hear me?
Yep, yep,
You're
you're back.
back.
Okay, there we go. Somebody's calling. Um, Others come into my life and help shift gears and get me on the right track. I would have met my maker, and if he would have asked, what's the one thing you do with my life, I would have like, I just kind of wasted it. But it fires me up when that question is put in my face, like, and I feel kind of the. I remember the first time I looked at my finances with a buddy who was a financial advisor. Tons of shame came up. I was looking at the numbers, looking at my bank
Facts.
account, looking at the facts, man. And I can almost feel it right now come up. I had credit card debt,
Mhm.
not an insignificant amount. And I'm a missionary working for the Lord, and I had $6,000 in credit card debt, barely making it by, hiding. But to bring this to the light, and I looked at it with a buddy who was a financial advisor, no shame. Let's look at it. Let's get an action plan. What can we do? And so we created an action plan and we started breaking it out. It was just overwhelming. It was overwhelming before there was a plan. And then I started looking and we started making some growth and some progress. And I just when you start tasting that again, what I shared earlier, when you start experiencing growth and experiencing progress and experiencing momentum, like I feel like society's waiting for men to enter in and to take responsibility for their own lives. And when we have men that will step up and take responsibility for their own lives, only then can we start really leading and protecting, providing, and laying down our lives as we're called to, because we all know we're called to do that.
Hmm.
And so it's the best time to do whatever it is always yesterday, and the second best time is today. And yeah, so I see the problem, and I see myself being one of those people that have been a part of the problem, and I just want to invite guys into moving the needle forward in their lives. I don't know, Sap,
Yeah,
what would you
that's
have to say?
excellent. But I want to ask Mark. I want to ask you a different question because so much of this is in you.
Mm.
I guess is who you are and the way that you operate your own life.
Mm.
Like
Sure.
origin story of what we're doing here and what we're building here. In a lot of ways, is overflow of who you are. And
Sure.
yeah, tell me about where this came from for you,
Sure.
how it got
What?
to this point, and like what's your dream here of where this goes uh, as
You
we start
know,
to build this thing.
yeah, it's a great question. I think the simplest form of this is like, there are certain people that God creates that He asks to open doors for other people, and that's their job, right? I need you to just unlock this door, and then they're going to do other incredible things, but they don't have anybody to open the door. So I always call those people permission granters, and I'm always looking for the permission granters in my life, whether it's the guy that let you look at your finances, Nick. That was a permission granter to look at reality, because sometimes it's overwhelming to look at it, right? Nick actually gave me, when I came to Kansas City after finishing playing professional ball back in 2017. I met him a few weeks after I got into town, and we just hit it off. And But he ended up giving me the book Living Forward by Michael Hyatt. And so that's where that this idea originated for a life plan. And so when I went through that exercise, which Nick really was the door opener. He was the permission granter. He was a masculine embodiment of what Catholicism looked like, of
Say it again,
Christianity
baby.
looked like. Yeah. And
Come
so,
on.
I mean, I just saw someone who was willing to take risks for not only the Lord, but just for other people. And I think that resonated with me in a deep way. And I said, yes, that's it. And so, as someone that was, kind of coming into community after, living a nomadic life, traveling around, playing a professional sport for many years, I think I had all of this energy, all of this drive, all of this purpose that now didn't have a home because it wasn't driven towards becoming a Major League Baseball player. And so I think I was, I was hungry and I loved the Lord, and I had been praying every day. I'd been going to mass, quite frequently. I had been praying with people, learning a little bit about how to do that. But I didn't have banks to the river. And so Nick actually helped provide that. And what I found and what I discovered was not that the plan that I had for my life was perfect, but that if I didn't have a vision, I was just going to drift for years with a lot of energy and not a productive, trail behind me. It might have been okay, but it wasn't actually going to go far. And so that, I think there are a lot of men out there that are not maybe don't have the same amount of energy or enthusiasm that I do, but they have a lot more directed discipline. They just have a depth of person that is a little bit more natural, where I've had to cultivate that or discover that a little bit more.
You just talked about yourself, Mark, as this guy at sort of a pivotal transition point in life, coming off the road, doing this. Your life is headed in this pretty dramatic, focused, all-out direction.
Yep.
Right? And then that's gone. And then it's like, okay, what am I going to do now, right? And you talked about community. So people, who are the people that are going to be in my life now? Who do I need at the table? What's my purpose? What am I going to build? What am I going to direct my energy towards, right? All huge questions. And figuring that, I mean, that came at sort of like this really important pivot point in your life, which is awesome. I'm curious, with that in mind, when you think about like the ideal guy, maybe isn't in that big of a critical transition in his life, but is more like a guy on a coaching call that I talked about this morning that's wrestling with this steady job, trying to provide for his parents, extended family. So he's got responsibility, but he's doing the minimum in his life. He's like getting by and realizes that he's not fully showing up to the process.
Right.
And there's these existential questions of purpose and meaning and where am I going? And he's trying to like wrestle with all of that in the midst of just trying to show up and do his job while he's also on job boards, like looking for other jobs. And also like wants a family and is kind of upset with God that he hasn't given him a family yet, but is also kind of like taken out of the game of like really out there trying to pursue a relationship because he's tried before and hasn't worked. So like that's the guy I think of.
Sure.
When I think of who's the ideal guy that the KingMakers community could change his life. So this is a question for both of you, but when you think of like, who is this for? How do you answer that question?
Yeah, I'm gonna. My first thought, what jumps to top of mind for me is a I think it's a man that has crafted some level of freedom for himself already, and then now is like, okay, I've got more agency than I used to, which is what I experienced when I was playing baseball. It was an exotic occupation, but it wasn't, it was directed towards something. And I think there are a lot of people, a lot of guys that maybe will see this and say, okay, I'm in a position where I've got a little bit more influence than I have, but I don't know where to direct it. Or I'm ready to launch, but I don't know where I'm going, right? Or I've got a newfound freedom because I've gone through the freedom group, or I've, done this, that, or the other, but I'm ready to get focused on where I'm headed. I think, that's a guy that I look at and say, or a guy that's scared to do that because he says, I've got these dreams and goals in my heart. I've never been able to actually do the internal work. I've started to do it, and now I'm discovering that there might be a huge call on my life, and I'm super intimidated by that. So I'd rather just stick in the day to day. Those are the guys that I'm looking that I think like I would suggest this to is like who needs Brotherhood to help them forward, and then also how do you have some level of accompaniment as you get some skin in the game. There's so much content out there. It's really not a matter of is there content or not. It's who am I doing this with so that I can externally and internally process what I'm going through and keep making progress. That is, I mean, that's where the deepest level of confidence for me comes is like it can be for anyone who has had a real desire to get on a path but still needs to be, you know, you think of like a machete in the Amazon. It's like, well, I haven't really even been hacking at shit right now. I need to hack away and figure out where I'm going. But what if I get 2 feet through and I'm already exhausted? No, you got people alongside you that will help you along that path and say, hey, if you just sharpen this part of the knife, you're going to be able to hack through. We're making way more progress than I thought.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, Seth, I like what you were saying earlier about permission given. Just real quick, Joe, I think there's like a massive problem in the church of just we say I can do nothing on my own. I can't do anything. And so we got a lot of Christian guys walking the path of duty and they're faithful and they're doing what they're supposed to do. And I think there are dreams and desires and honest parts of their heart, if we're honest, that want to freaking make an effing difference.
Yes.
And like want to actually build something big. And there's this bullshit thought that that's not humble if I want to blow it up and actually have a massive impact. I think there's false humility and a poverty spirit that's crushing a lot of dudes that's keeping them out of the game. I want to work with that guy who's faithful and he's doing the obligations and he's faithfully doing the duties and he's pulling the right levers. But inside, he's like, man, I'm just like grinding and there's something that's not alive in me. And I want to give that guy permission to tap into dreams, to express desires, express dreams, and not worry about censoring them or judging them as being worldly or whatever. Throw it out there. Let's throw it up against the wall. We'll take action and not over discern if it's God's will or not. Let's discover along the way together and not get stuck in our freaking heads about whether it's God's will or not. There's so much more freedom in the kingdom of God that we, as long as we're living morally, there's a lot more freedom than I think we believe there actually is. I want to work with that guy who's stuck in his head and wants to deep down knows he's called to blow it up and just is like living in these bullshit lies.
I love that, Nick, because it reminds me of the story of a girl who comes to her dad and she's like, Dad, who am I supposed to marry? Who am I supposed to marry? And he's like, you're 25 years old. Like, I have failed at my job if you don't have permission to go out there and choose a husband. Like, I created you. I developed you. I poured myself out for you so that you could have the confidence to choose, right? And that choice ultimately then is yours, right? I can't be the scapegoat when you choose and it gets hard. And I'm going to be there to help you when it gets hard. But it's your life, and I want you to live it, right? Yeah. It's like we've gotten to a point that so often it becomes like we're vicariously living through God's life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And there's this like removal of ownership of like, I mean, this was literally the conversation I had this morning. Like, well, I'm just like, I feel like I'm just supposed to wait on God's plan for my life.
Well, and you know, to wait, you're like you're like a waiter. Like you're ready to pour the water. You know, it's not like I'm going to wait on the Lord. You know, I've done that before, by the way. I'm not shaming anybody out there, but no, he's like, hey, I said go. You need to be ready to go. Right. And God's timing, right? It's his timing, but if you're not prepared to step when he says step, you know, then you're going to miss the ticket.
Which ultimately is it's two things. It's fear, and it's hopelessness, right? It's like I'm reminded in that, Nick. It's the Henry Nouwen quote, right? about hope, what is true hope, that it's not hoping for the arrival of the bus.
Oh,
And I just sit on the street corner and wait for the bus to arrive or for the rain to stop. And I'm a victim of when the rain stops. Right? It's out of my control. No, it's like preparation and being prepared and waiting is and hope ultimately is an active virtue.
Yes.
Like I am out here in the world hoping for it to change. Doesn't look like, well, I hope it changes eventually. It's like I am working on it with God to change, right? I am co-working in the change, right? And what is that ultimately? That's the plan. That's the operating system is like, what is the hope for your life? And then we're going to get active, and God can mess it up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He can totally mess it up. You know, it's like he can change the circumstances in the blink of an eye. That's his prerogative, and maybe you'll figure out along the way that that's even more of a magnification of his plan. Of like you didn't even know how good it could get, but in order to be able to, for it to get there, you have to start moving. You have to go out and get busy. Right? You have to be the moving car so he can steer it.
Yeah,
right?
You got to be an active participant in your own life. Like he didn't give you a life to not live it. He's not saying, "Hey, can you eat to live?" We gotta go. I think KingMakers, even just the name, right? If I don't reign, there will be for everyone else in my life. There's going to be a ton of pain. And that's not a fear-based thing for all of them.
Right.
But when I don't live, everybody else ends up suffering tangentially, and I think that's an important, it doesn't mean I have to be perfect all the time, but what it means is like, I can't pretend to live.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think like, I need to really, and you don't become a good king without working at it. It's like, I got engaged for one day in my life, Joe, not to take it off, but I got engaged one day and she gave the ring back the next. But I was stuck for like 3 months trying to figure out if I was going to get, if I was going to get engaged to this gal or not. And great woman, didn't work out. But the idea was like, well, what's another 6 months going to look like? I'm going to be racked inside. It was totally the right decision. But it took a lot of courage. I had a lot of fear, like, well, rejection or acceptance. Either way, I don't know what the heck's going on. But it wasn't until I finally took action after I talked to a few really good friends and said, well, I'm just going to pull the trigger and see what happens. And I said, God, don't let me miss this. And it was loud and clear that I didn't miss it. Though it was very humiliating and well, in one sense, but also very like I had a piano taken off my shoulders. But I had to live it. I couldn't think it. And I think there's a lot of thinking it that happens these days, and living it is the core of it all, right? It's a living relationship.
Yep. At the end of the day, we're going to be judged by our actions. A man is not judged by his words, but by his actions. And that's the fruit. We are, I get fired up. John 15 talks about the fruit of being, and it's just who you are, and the fruit of doing. We will be held accountable. And fruitfulness is a mandate on my life. And it's by our actions.
Come on.
Can't earn salvation. I get it, but come on. Yeah, Joe.
When you imagine a guy going through this process, he joins the KingMakers Community, goes through the onboarding phase, and he lives in it for a year. What's different about his life?
Well, number one, he will be drinking bull testicle shakes.
There it is. You waited all this time. If you made it to this point in the podcast, it's all connected, baby.
Hot dog.
It's all connected.
T levels will be at an all-time high. I really appreciate this video by Mike Rowe on PragerU. The title of it is something to the effect of "Don't do what you're passionate about." It's a good 5-minute video, and the principle basically is competence begets confidence. Once you start getting competent in one area of your life, your dick grows a little more, metaphorically speaking. And you start getting a little more confident. You're like, okay, I'm seeing some progress. And then once you
Flow.
get that area, yeah, you get the flow. And then it starts affecting and begetting that in other areas of your life. And it's the confidence that's flowing from doing the daily work of becoming a competent participant, Sap, as you said, in your own life.
Mm.
And it's this, and I love the word hope, Joe, because it's an expectation.
Hmm.
Hope is an expectation,
Right.
right? And once you start tasting some movement, it becomes real, and you start gaining mastery over your own self, over your thought life, over every area of your life. The lordship, and this stuff becomes cliche, but the lordship of Jesus Christ over every area of my life means I'm a light to the nations in every area. In every area, and it's meant to shine out there. Financially, I'm free. The fire, financially independent, retire early. It's not about that, but there's something to that, to be free, relationally thriving in every area of my life. And a guy in a year, like, I just imagine what you can do when you start moving the needle forward. Is there we guarantee my kids are.
Nick's lost it.
You know what? That's Nick. You're back.
Holy crap.
Amazing.
All right, I think my kids are ringing.
Not even airplane mode could solve that, huh? I mean, what I hear Nick saying is two things. It's the purpose and meaning thing. It's like, what's the goal of all of this? But not just generally, right? Like, identity is really helpful. A big moment in my life was choosing to start believing in my mind and my thought life that I was a son of God, that I was good.
That's right.
That he did love me, right? Even though the way that I had lived up until that point communicated to me something else. It was a big moment. But even more than that was personal identity, right? Like, not just that God thinks that I'm a son, but that he knows my name. That he wants to talk to me personally, that he knows things about me personally, right? And Jamie Winship talks a lot about this personal identity, like that there's a name that God calls us, right? Something specific about our identity that matters.
Right.
And I love that, because that's when the rubber hits the road, and that's when life gets real purpose and meaning. So there's this. When you guys talk about, like, who's it for and what's a guy going to get out of this, I hear that. Like, you are going to develop a vision for your life, a mission for your life. You will no longer have existential worry and concern for what's the point of all of this. Where is my purpose? Where is my meaning?
You're going to be exhausted because every single day is so full of purpose. You're going to be like, I need a break. That is 90% of the past 8 years for me has been that way. And it's because I know where I'm going. It doesn't mean that I haven't fallen flat on my face multiple times, but I've had a reason to get back up every time. But it is, you will, after you go through this process this year alongside others, you will have real clarity on who you were created to be and how you're going to live that out. Yep. And that doesn't mean that circumstances won't change, but what it means is, like, you will be able to change with those circumstances as the man that you are. You never know when some enemy shows up at the gate. If you're a king, that means someone's going to come for your kingdom. So how do you have the tools to not be a peasant? Right. You know, you have people that you are influencing on the day-to-day that are counting on you and need you to show up.
Yep.
That's what you're going to walk away with is like truly having that kind of deep understanding of who you were created to be, and then a continual process to like continue to discover even further and further depths of that.
Yep.
You know, we're never going to retire. I'm still discovering who God created me to be. I think, Joe, you were talking to that. What's my name that God calls me? I'm learning more about myself all the time. Marriage has brought that out. Kids have brought that out. Friendships brought that out. Difficulties in business have brought that out. Successes in business have brought that out. You know? But it has all come through like that vision of who I was created to be. And the more that I live that, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to. Difficulties are always going to come. Tony Robbins says it's not. People get tormented because they think that once they solve their problems, everything's going to get better. And then they realize that problems don't go away. He said, when you understand that you trade these problems for better problems. My whole life has been a process of trading these problems here now for how am I going to educate my kids? How am I going to provide for my family? Well, that means I have kids and I have a family. That's incredible. Okay, how am I going to house this family? How am I going to solve this problem with my mother-in-law in a way that allows our family to grow well? Oh my gosh, actually, the problem is with me and the way that I'm behaving. It's not her. That's my fault. Okay, so now I need to do a little bit of this work. That's what you're going to discover and find out. And I needed courage and support in order to do that plumbing of the depths.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the second part that I hear. So there's the vision, the mission, the character, the who am I, and then there's the where am I going? Where do I want to be 3 years from now? Develop a plan as if your Father in heaven gave you the agency and character and ownership over your own life to develop a plan with him, obviously.
That's right.
But then to run after something and he can course correct you if you're off. So you develop a plan. Where do I want to be in 3 or 5 years? And then where am I going to be a year from now? Right? Like this is the rubber is starting to, it's getting hot as I start to spin close to the road. It's like, this is where the work is about to start. And then, like you said, the accountability, the meeting cadence, the rhythm of life to be able to do what I need to do personally on a weekly basis, together on a monthly basis in the community to be able to do that, on a quarterly basis to review. Like, has God shifted some things? Have I chosen a different direction on some things? Have I learned some new information that changes some of the plan and I need to make adjustments? You can do that. Mm-hmm. And then your annual review of like, hey, did I accomplish what I set out to achieve? Do I need to go back and make some changes? Did some things get pushed off because one reason or another, big things or something different happened in my life that sort of like moved this off to the side for a period of time and now it's coming back on, right? That I can move that big goal or objective back into sort of pole position where this next year is now the phase, right?
Yeah.
And that's that part of it gets me fired up because I'm an idea guy. I'm a visionary by nature. Like I wake up in the morning with 10 new ideas for how to do things. But like where my life actually changes is in the trenches of traction.
Yeah.
Like daily basis. Am I still doing what I set out to do a week ago? That's where it matters for me. It's like, oh, do I remember the plan that I came up with a month ago? Am I still committed to those things? Do those still show up on my to-do list?
Yep.
As I start thinking about new things, as I start getting spun up in new ideas or this next thing that could take this to the next level, do I have space for that? Or do I need to be committed to the process, right? So it's a both and, not an either or, right? It's where am I going in the short term and then how does that fit into the long-term dream and vision? So that's what we're and doing that for your personal life, right? Start living your personal life as if you were a well-oiled machine in the best business on earth, because your personal life is a deeply meaningful, vision-oriented business, if you will, in that it has vision, it has mission, it has people that are involved in that pursuit, and you got a bunch of stuff you have to manage and handle. And are you reacting to all of that or are you acting in an intentional way on all of that? And if you're struggling with purpose, meaning, vision in your life, and you need support there, this is for you. If you want to develop a plan for your life and get things in order, that you realize that your daily to-do list, the way that you show up in your process, in your real lived experience today isn't working right, that you need more commitment, you need more accountability to help you show up to the stuff in the day-to-day, the week-to-week, the month-to-month, this is also for you. Right? And if you're interested in any of this stuff and being able to figure out the practicals or how would this work for you, you can go to our website, thefreedomgroup.co/KingMakers. We'll put it in the show notes, wherever you find this stuff, on our social media, wherever. And we want to chat with you. The way to get access is fill out an application. One of us will talk to you and figure out if this is a good fit for you. And then this is an evergreen community, and what that means is you can be a part of it as long as it is relevant and helpful for you. For some guys, that might be a shorter period of time to just get things kickstarted. Okay, now I got what I need. Boom, I'm ready to go with the rest of my life. For other guys, it's going to be like, I could see myself living in this for the rest of my life because it helps consistently bring the order that I need in my life to get the big vision that I have for my life where I actually wanted to go and get it into reality, not just a potential reality or a hope or a dream that I have for my life. But when I look at the reality of my life, I'm very far from that. So if those are dream outcomes for you or problems, pain points you're facing in your life, we'd love to for you to consider joining us in this inaugural season as we launch the KingMakers Community, and come with us as we build this thing and be part of the founding group of guys that build something that we truly believe the whole of humanity, manhood, desperately needs in our lived experience and in the world that we've seen in our spheres of influence around us. So we want you to come with us. I want to end with just one last thing for you, Mark. Invitation. You're talking to a guy, you see him wrestling and hungering for something in his life. What do you want to say to that guy in invitation for why this matters in his life? What do you tell him?
Man, if you will do the deep work of plumbing the depths of your own heart, taking a good hard look, a good hard audit, what's good, what's not so good, who do I want to become, and you're willing to do that, it'll take a full day, right? You're going to do some prep work, but then you are committed to saying, okay, if I give 24 hours, let's say 8 to 10 hours of myself where I'm going to really wrestle with a few things on this piece of paper, get some help alongside that, but I'm going to wrestle with that. I promise you, it will change your life forever. You will have an opportunity because you will walk away with something that has everything, right? You have literally put together who you are, who you want to be, and done a real look. A lot of people do not reflect at all on their life because they don't have a container to do that. They're distracted by a million different things. The phone takes me. I got to get a call. 45 people say they have to talk to me right now. Instead of you saying, you know what, I'm putting that aside. That's all gone, right? I could throw out some expletives and say, that's actually how I feel. I'm throwing that thing away. You sit there and you do that deep work, you get that momentum, you're going to walk away from you're basically going to mine and find a nugget of gold that then you can refine and play with. You know, you're not just dealing with dirt. You're not dealing with surface level. You're moving forward. So that's what you're going to walk away with. Whether you're in, I'd say from the very short end would be a minimum, right? A minimum of 3 months where you would just jump in and say, hey, I'm going to walk through this and see if it's for you. But really, if you go through a year and I think any guy that goes through this process will look back and will just be not just excited. If I said, hey, for X amount of dollars, you could have your life changed forever, would you do it? Here's the deal. There is no magic pill. The only way is through. And if you're going to go through anything difficult, you need people that come alongside you. People have come alongside me, and so we'd love the same opportunity. So that's my invitation. we're going to show up for you. So we want guys to show up for themselves and for those, closest to them. And so that's my heart. That's my heart, Joe.
I love it.
That's what I got.
I love it. Sweet. All right, you know where to find us. If you made it this far, you made it through some inguinal hernia conversation, some bull testicle conversation, all the way to purpose, meaning traction, plan for your life. And if you stuck with us this far, you might as well have a conversation with one of us now, because you just sat and listened to us for an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Joe. He's Nick. He's Mark. And we are the leaders of the KingMakers community. Look forward to seeing you guys there. Peace.
Peace.